Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about The Dinner Table Detective Season 1, Episode 6. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, I knew something was up when we got introduced to like the neighbor, Kurumi's neighbor, who was just like, yeah, that food always gets delivered and it's always there and she never eats it. Then we find out it gets thrown away because she never touches it. The moment that plot element was introduced, I was like, she's not the one ordering all that food. The whole services keep dropping the food off. Someone else is doing that just to mess with her. And it's not till later on that, because I thought they were doing it from, obviously we find out later on there's a malicious point of that. I thought it was initially them just being a stalker and being like, oh my god, I'm so obsessed with you, I want to make sure you're eating, like, ooh, eat the food I'm making you or ordering for you. I thought that's what that was. But yeah, because initially you have Kishiro assuming that Kurumi is the person behind this, because it's like, well, she has all the motive and no one else presented seems to have motive. Like, no one else introduced in the case seems to have the motive for why would they like kill Kobayashi. But yeah, it's the whole situation of he had her pouch and everything and how important it is to her. So it's like, once again, she had all the motives, especially if he was like her stalker and stuff, but now it's kind of widespread online about the case and her being a suspect, and people even being like, oh, she definitely killed Kobayashi. Some people being like, oh, it's a good thing you killed that stalker. Other people being like, oh, you're a murderer, I'm not going to support you. And it's like, oh man, that's that complicated thing. I mean, obviously you're talking about smaller degrees of different things, but like, is that whole conversation of, it's a lengthier conversation about like, well, people say stuff about you online, you can just disappear, you shouldn't let it get to you. But I'm like, for one, that's easier said than done when like social media has become like a massive part of everyone's life. Not everyone, but a good chunk of the population's life. So a lot of people are perpetually online, and when your life revolves around that, for better or for worse, it is a situation of you can't really ignore that, because that's a part of life. That's just like socializing with people. It's a part of life. It should be. I know it's ironic for me, the most least social person, saying that, but like when you have those, like when you kind of use that as an avenue of communication with people, and now you have to kind of ignore that, it's not the easiest thing, and it feels like the internet's piling on you. It can feel like 100 people can feel like a million voices sometimes, type of situation. Sometimes it can reach up to that. But then there's also the aspect of, oh, look at Kurumi, she has a job as a streamer, and this applies to any online content creator. It's like, you can't just like disappear from the internet, because you need to like be on your do your job. Because I mean, she already was away for like 2 months during like when she had to have surgery for her throat, and she was kind of beating herself up, being like, no, there's so many other VTubers and online streamer competitors that like no one's gonna, like, it's been 2 months, no one's gonna remember me, I'm always gonna be forgotten. And especially because we find out why this means so much to Kurumi. She used to be made fun of by her voice in middle school and high school, because people thought like, oh, you're trying too hard to be cute. And for her, it's just like, she kind of hated her voice, which I get it. The same thing. I hate the sound of my own voice. It is what it is. But being a streamer like gave her confidence. She was able to put herself out there, and it gave her more confidence. More people liking her voice, making her feel more comfortable about herself. And I think that's the beautiful thing about like being able to kind of build up confidence by like putting yourself out there. Like, that is a scary thing, like presenting yourself to the world, because you open yourself up to people not liking you or liking you. So it comes with its pros and cons. Obviously, it's not all sunshines and rainbows. It has a dark side to it, as we see in this episode. But I mean, that could be applicable to a lot of things. But being a online content creator could open you up to that a little bit more than maybe other professions and stuff like that. But anyone could have a stalker, whether you're famous or not, obviously. But that's what I mean, like why she took it so hard with the whole 2-month hiatus, because she's thinking, oh, they're going to forget about me, and I owe them a lot because they made me, put me where I am, and just I'm feeling like you're going to be forgotten. And especially because it's like, because your confidence was built up by this thing, and to kind of have that undone, yeah, it can kind of break you a little bit. So that's why, like, backing away from like this career, I mean, for one, it is your career, so it's easy to be like, oh, you shouldn't be online paying attention to that. But I mean, when you literally have people calling you a murderer, that you shouldn't have done what you did, yada yada yada, it can weigh on you. And especially as we see, like, Kurumi is a very naturally very meekish person, so a lot of that hits even heavier. And Mikami came to her and was talking to her. It's like, 4 years ago you came to me being like, you want 1 million subscribers, and then you want to put on your own solo concert once you reach 1 million, just to kind of pay back all the people who've been there to support you. And it's like, oh, but it took you so long to get to 20,000. But she was like, no, I'm going to do this. So many people have reached out to me. They've been there for me when I was kind of at my lowest. So I want to pay that forward, you know? But now it's like, sadly, that the weight of all that's kind of crumbling down upon her. And she wants to quit with all these messages she's receiving. So yeah, initially it seems like Kurumi is the only suspect, but you're like, nah, it can't be her. And so obviously, Reiko, which I love that she was commenting on like some of the comments from people being like, oh my god, useless cops. And she's like, I'm not the useless one. If anyone's useless, it's Kiyoshi, which Kageyama was like, oh, he would be so hurt to hear you say that, and then immediately cuts to him sneezing. I've only heard about that in more recent years. The whole thing of like when someone, because I've always known the trope of you sneeze because someone's talking. That means someone's talking about you. I don't know if it's always necessarily bad or good. It always typically gets used in a bad fashion, like, oh, someone's talking negatively about you. But I guess I've only seen it in a negative light. Maybe it does apply in a positive light too. But in more recent years, I've seen the whole like, oh, your ears itch thing, which I was like, oh, I never knew that. Either way, tangents and all that aside, Kageyama and Reiko are talking about the case, and he's just kind of like, oh, I'm sorry, my lady, but it's like, I'll stop myself. She's like, no, stop doing the mid-stop. Like, say what you're going to say. He's like, I mean, it seems like you're walking around with your eyes closed. And he's like, are the gears in your brains actually working? Are you that slow? And it's just like every time he gets an opportunity, he shits on Reiko when it's to the point in the case. He's like, are you seriously not getting this? It's like, come on, just say what you need to say without shitting on me. It's going to be a point in the story. It probably won't be till near the end where Reiko figures it out without Kageyama's help. And also maybe Kishiro will get it right once in the case. Because once again, last episode, he was banging the drum about the whole, oh my god, it was definitely a suicide. Definitely it was. Now it's like, oh, definitely Kurumi did it, you know? So, but either way, Kageyama explains some things. First and foremost, he's like, how would Kobayashi know who, I don't know why I'm saying the wrong name, sorry. Kobayashi, like, how would he know Kurumi's identity as Kurukuru-chan? And I was like, that was a question I asked last episode, because I was like, yeah, they might have gone to that same hospital, but I'm like, how did he know? And then it was a whole thing. My justification was like, well, he heard her voice during the stream, so he assumed meeting her that it was her. But it's like, once again, she's wearing a mask because she's also like probably going in for surgery, so she's wearing it for medicinal purposes. But also, like, VTubers do that. They do that to cover up their identity. So even if you associate the voice, you might not piece it together. Even though she's got like an online like avatar as a snail, it's still kind of like you won't always fully connect the dot. But I mean, there's plenty of VTubers that do that when they're out and about. They will, like, if they do like IRL stuff, or even just in public events and stuff, they'll cover up part of their face just for their own, like, yeah, I want to be able to have like a normal life without like getting hounded by people. I want people to know what it really look like, so it's harder for them to track me down, which understandable. But yeah, so like Kobayashi had no idea the girl he talked to like at that time was Kurukuru. So that kind of throws that out there. Like, he never knew who she was, so he wouldn't even know that he's stalking her because he doesn't know what she looked like. Even though he heard the voice, he didn't correlate it together. She might add a little more spunk to it because she's very meekish and soft-spoken in real life versus like, she's a little bit more confident, so she's probably a little more like out. She pushes her voice probably a little bit more, not necessarily changing it, but like pushes it a little more than she would in a normal day-to-day conversation because of how like soft-spoken and meekish she is. So, but then also Kageyama points out the food she's eating, like, gets served, it's curry, and it's like curry would do something to her throat, especially if you're someone who went through a throat surgery. She would not mess with something like that, especially on a consistent basis that is being ordered. But also then Reiko adds in, oh right, there's S-Card Go, and her persona online is that of a snail, so that's probably meant to be an extra dig, like the person doing this is harassing her. So, because usually the situation is like with a stalker, like it's usually like a love situation, an unrequited love that goes beyond, and then it's like, why would they shift over into like a negative reaction type of situation? And so Kageyama thinks that all of this is to push her. They're also the ones who spread the rumor about her being responsible for Kobayashi's murder, and that way to turn more of her fans and the internet against her until she gets so depressed that she ultimately takes her own life. Luckily, they got to her in time because all like when she's throwing away the trash, she doesn't lock the door behind herself, like the door, so it's easy access of like, oh, they could easily slip in. And it turns out the stalker had put in like a listening device and was listening to our conversation, because even the audio that went public that was clipped out, it wasn't from her stream. Because I was about to say, like, was that mute? You would think, like, because most people mute their mics when they walk away from that type of situation. Like when there's something going on, they typically will mute their mic, especially because she's been doing it for a while. You'd expect that to be the case, but obviously there's slip ups. Never crossed my mind like, oh, it's because there was a listening device in there that was obviously like recorded that conversation and then put it out there. Because Kageyama is like, if you listen, her chair sounds way more louder than her own voice in that. And it's like, well, she could have had her microphone closer to the chair than her mouth, or more likely it's coming from another recording device. So, and that ended up being the stalker who came to retrieve it. But in that moment, they busted him. And we find out what this whole thing is. They met because Kurumi ended up retrieving his like wallet. When he dropped it, he fell in love with her and started stalking her, following her home, sneaking into her home and everything. But then while following her, he saw her interact with Kobayashi and assumed like, oh my God, that's her significant other. How dare she betray me like this? I'm going to get back at both of you. So that's why he started harassing her, got into her apartment and stole that snail pouch, which is a memento of her mom's. And yeah, Kobayashi and him just happened to bump into each other, and Kobayashi being such a massive fan of Kuru, like people who know her and are fans of her would be like, oh my God, recognize that immediately. And ultimately he ended up killing Kobayashi, the guy, because he was like, because he tried to fight him with the snail, but also it's like, oh, I know who you are, I hate you, you took away Kurumi from me. Because he didn't know, he's not a fan of Kuru, he's obsessed with Kurumi, so he doesn't really care about all that online stuff. Whereas like Kobayashi was a fan of her as Kuru and didn't know her as Kurumi, and so that's why he killed her. But we also found out, like, because like the thing, Reiko was like, well, why was the pouch so pristine condition, even though Kobayashi's bag was ripped to shreds? And he was like, Kageyama assumes it's like most likely because he was a major fan of hers, he most likely protected it because he knew how important that was to Kuru, which is really heartbreaking and sad that that situation played out the way that it is. But it's also like there's something sweet and beautiful about that, even to the point Reiko ended up giving him a letter, giving Kurumi a letter or something, some lyrics that were written on Kobayashi's computer, and he wanted Kurumi to sing him, and the picture on it is of her old avatar. So it's like, oh, like he's an OG fan, he's been there like kind of day one. So I was like, oh, that sucks, that's heartbreaking, dude. And that's what inspired Kurumi, like, no, I'm gonna do this. And so she pulls off the concert because she remembers, she knows exactly who, she's like, oh my God, this is that guy who inspired me even back then when I was going to give up, and has inspired me again when I was almost about to give up again. But it's like, he gave me the advice because he's the one that told me like, no, me and your fans will be waiting here, because she's like, what you do, what Kurumi did, well, once again, he doesn't know Kurumi was Kuro, but he's like, what Kuro did, like, I was someone that felt lost and didn't know what I was going to do, but she gave me the courage to go on. I think that's the beautiful thing, that you can latch on to someone like that, that someone can be that inspiration, kind of get you through the dark times. Obviously, you want to have other things too, because maybe that person fails you in some way and then you come crashing down. But like someone helping you when you're at your low and being that inspiration for you to keep going, and you want to like cheer them on and be there to support them. That's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful. I saw this recently. It was like I think it was like a short from Atara Con where she was talking about like the parasocial relationship. Parasocial does tend to have like a negative connotation to it. And I never really thought about it like that. I always see it as a negative connotation. I think you can, yes, there is a negative element to it, but I think there could be a, like, I don't know. Because maybe parasocial is meant to be like the extreme negative. And, you know, but I feel like that dynamic can be positive and good, and it doesn't have to be weird or creepy. It could just be like awe-inspiring in a way. It's weird to say, but I think that parasocial relationships don't have to necessarily be bad. But once again, maybe I'm wrong. The definition, by definition, might be, no, it's meant to be bad. So there is no positive spin to it. So maybe there is a different word for a more positive parasocial relationship, or it is both, and it just tends to get the more negative connotation. I don't know. I just never thought about that until like I saw that short, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Either way, I'm going on in this massive tangent, but yeah. But yeah, Kurumi puts on her performance, and it's really beautiful and obviously sad, like her like tearfully singing it. You know, it's like, oh, like this is all of you guys who supported me to be where I am right now, and also to this fan. Hopefully, I can sing loud enough with you guys singing along that will reach that person in heaven too. So I just thought that was beautiful, and just kind of like, once again, sad conclusion to this case, you know. So, but nevertheless, that's where we find ourselves at the end of this. So, just to kind of end on a more like, I mean, that's kind of a positive note, but it's kind of a bummer to know. I just want to also like, I think I brought this up, but I really like the opening and the ending songs for this series. I probably like the ending the most. I haven't listened to the full version of the opening, but I've listened to the full version of the outro. But yeah, the song's called Rhapsody by Billy Boo. And I was like, it's such a bop and a vibe. And I'm just like, you can't help but like dance and jive to it a little bit. I know I'm using the term jive. What the fuck is this? The 70s? But yeah, just it's such a good vibe and bop. So I just wanted to kind of say that, just kind of end on a little bit of a more happier note, I guess. But yeah, it's but yeah, like I'm excited to see where the next episode takes us, what the next case will end up being. I think we are at the halfway point in the season, because I believe this season's only 12 episodes. But yeah, I've run my mouth off long enough. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.